What's going on, loved ones? It's your boy Pop, and welcome to another episode of Kre8tive Konversations at the Kre8tive Lounge. And today, I have a very special guest and a very special relationship to this special guest. I'm not going to let the cat out the bag yet, but as we begin to discuss and talk, it's going to be very evident and it's going to be clear. So y'all sit back, relax, and let's get to the episode. But hold on, fam, before we get into the episode, it's very important that I tell you about the Kre8tive Lounge. Now, the Kre8tive Lounge is where this episode is actually being recorded. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you a business owner? Are you a creative and you're trying to get more exposure, more visibility to your brand, to your business, right? You just want people to know about you and you're trying to reach a larger audience? Well, the Kre8tive Lounge provides services for you to be able to do that. So here's some of the things that we do. We do recordings of podcasts, so you can record a podcast or a show. If you have an idea, we will be more than happy to help you bring it to life. If you need professional photography, we got you. If you need social media content, irresistible social media content that will make you a magnet for your ideal client or audience, we got you. So listen, do me a huge favor. Click on the link down below. It'll take you to our website and you can book a consultation call today. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Let's get back to the show. Well, hello there.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It is so good to have you.
This is special.
Very special.
This is very special.
Very special. This is a long time coming. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So before we go any further, I want you to introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are.
Well, my name is Tara Poinsette. I'm a style enthusiast. And I just love everything that has to do with style and fashion.
I love it. And ladies and gentlemen, she is my sister. She is my big sister. And we are going to talk about things that I probably didn't know about. So I'm going to be learning just like you learning. So this is going to be good. So before we get into this, right?
Let's get into it.
I like to do something called It's Random.
Okay, random question.
Yes.
All right.
So I'm going to ask you 5 random questions. There's no right or wrong answers, okay? No pressure. So some of them are going to make you think a little bit.
Okay.
Some of them are going to be a lot more surface, right? But we're going to mix it up a little bit, all right? So, are you ready?
I'm nervous.
You should not. Hold on. That's one thing that we can't do here.
Just don't ask for my social security number.
No, I'll do that offline. Ready? You ready? Here we go. Question number 1. What is your favorite cereal of all time?
This is so bad because I will say, I have 2 answers. Can I have 2 answers?
Absolutely,
you said there's
can.
no wrong answer.
Yes, that's right.
So my favorite cereal is Chex.
Okay.
The traditional one. I think it's like I think it naturally has like a honey or something type of like flavoring. But the original Chex, there's something about the texture is really delicious. It almost reminds me of like a shredded wheat, which is probably like my number 2. But not quite a shredded wheat. Like I can't explain it. Like it's just so delicious. But my guilty pleasure is Captain Crunch.
Yes.
Crunchberries.
Okay, Crunch berries.
Crunchberries.
Crunch berries, that's very critical.
Yes, gotta have the Crunch berries.
How do you get over the cutting up of your top of your mouth?
See, there's a key. You have to like let that soak in the milk for a little bit. You can't just go in. You gotta soften it up a little bit. And it's a sweet spot. Not right before it gets too soggy, but takes a little bit of that harsh crunch off.
Got you.
So the key is also not to make a big bowl. Because if you make a big bowl, then the bottom is going to get all soggy. The top is cutting up your mouth. So you have to make a medium-sized bowl, not too small, not too big, and then get 2 if you need to. Get a second bowl.
That's where I messed up. I was going right in because I don't like soggy cereal at all. Like I have to have the crunch. So that's where I was messing up. That is okay.
That sweet spot. Gotta find that sweet spot.
Gotta find that sweet spot. Okay, good. All right, you're learning something already. Number 2. What is one piece of advice that you would give your 18-year-old self?
Ooh, girl. Girl, buckle up. Buckle up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Wow.
That's all I would say. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
I think for sure I would just tell her to buckle up, hold on to your seat.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good.
That's it.
Okay. Number three. Is there a quote that you heard that changed your perspective?
Yes. And this is a part of my corporate experience. At one of the places of employment that I was working, I was a merchant, which we can get into a little bit of that later, but similar to a buyer, but it was for a vertical retailer, so the title is merchant there. We used to have these big design meetings, like we would have all these milestone meetings, and I had a VP once who, she would always, like, when we would have those meetings, it would have to be like certain levels and above. So she wouldn't allow like assistants to be in the room.
Interesting.
Which was so strange to me, especially in the industry that we're in. I feel like the assistants were like the youngest. In most cases, they were just out of college, or at least, really kind of at that sweet spot where they're sort of they have the pulse on what's happening in the industry.
Yeah.
And I used to, at that point, I was an associate, but I used to always love to have my assistants around because they were cool and they dressed great and they knew what was in style and what was trending. And, one of the things I used to take away from her, because she was always the loudest voice, and she liked to be the smartest person in the room, no matter what, right? Always had to have the last word, always had to be the deciding voice.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what I was watching or what I was doing. It kind of just came to me intuitively, and then something just said in my head, like, you know what? The smartest person in the room knows that they're not the smartest person in the room. And that's something that I still kind of like use to this day, because everybody has value. Everybody has a point of view. Everybody has information that they can contribute to the conversation, including assistants.
100%.
So I feel like the smartest person in the room is the one that knows they are not the smartest person, and that they should pool the resources and opinions and POVs of other people in the room.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
So that's one of my favorite quotes.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Listen, you knocking these out the park. You knocking these out the park. Question number 4. What is your favorite TV show of all time?
Favorite TV show of all time? That's hard.
Listen.
That's a hard one.
I'll give you 2.
All time?
I'll give you 2. Just because you're my sister, you have special special privileges.
Favorite TV show of all time?
Yes.
When I was younger, I was probably like pre-teens. There used to be this show that came on Sunday mornings. It was 2 shows back to back, and it was on VH1. And it's funny because in hindsight, I guess now that I kind of understand a little bit about how like TV and programming works, it wasn't music content, it was fashion content. One of the shows was called Fashion File, and the other show was called Video Fashion Weekly.
Whoa.
And it was just this obscure thing, but it used to come on early Sunday mornings.
Okay.
And I was obsessed. So those are like, I would say, my 2 all-time favorite TV shows, just because I didn't even really, like, I didn't have a fashion community. Like, I wasn't going and talking to my friends about fashion, but I was, like, obsessed with this show. It was kind of like my own, like, secret thing that I had every Sunday morning. And it was, like, important to me, and it shaped who I am today. So that would have to be my all-time favorite TV show. And I'm glad you gave me 2, because they were both half-hour shows.
Okay, were they back to back?
They were back to back. Video Fashion Weekly and Fashion File. Fashion File and Video Fashion Weekly. To this day, I always try to go on like YouTube to see if I can find like old episodes, and I can't. I've found like a clip or 2 here or there, but it's like it's just in obscurity. I probably need to look a little closer.
Yes. Well, listen. So that makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure that's going to uncover itself as we continue our conversation.
For sure.
Last question.
Last question.
One book that changed your mindset.
You are asking so many hard questions because there's so many. I'm a reader, so there's so many books. A book that changed my perspective. A book that changed my perspective. This is a reach, but there's a book called New York the Novel, and I know it's like
the novel.
So weird, right? Because there's so many books that I've read. Like I love The Spy by Paulo Coelho, which is probably one of my favorite books. I could go on and on and on. I mean, current books, The Vanishing Half was so good. Like, I love the genre of historical fiction in books and in movies.
Yeah.
And New York the Novel, so they have one for like every major city. It's kind of like a franchise.
I didn't know that was a thing.
But it's so cool because it basically tells fiction. It's historical fiction.
Yeah.
It's a fictional story, but around factual information.
Yeah.
But it basically takes you from New York when it was first like colonized by the early settlers.
Yeah.
It takes you all the way up to like after 9/11.
Yes. Okay.
And it's under the premise that it's kind of following this one lineage. And it's a really big book, as you can imagine. It's a lot of history packed in that book. But it just gave such an interesting perspective of like different cultures, different backgrounds. Like it literally starts with like settlers and Native Americans in the New York area. And there's a lot of talk, being from Westchester, there's a lot of talk about, the Hudson River and how important that was to livelihood and how a lot of trade really happened down the Hudson, bringing materials and supplies and stuff up and down the Hudson. So it was just fascinating.
I like that.
So that, I guess your question was change my perspective. I think from reading that and reading things from different point of views and different perspectives just kind of helped me have more of an open mind.
Sure.
With people in general, right? Because we all have our own stories, but we're all so interconnected.
Absolutely. No, and I think that's important because, to your point, it allows you to, or adds more dimension to your perspective.
Exactly.
It adds more dimension to it. It gives you, like you said, it paints a larger picture. And exposure, I always say exposure is the biggest thing that we can, it's major. It's a major key. So you reading that and other novels like that, or you liking that particular genre of books, helps you to actually be exposed to information that you didn't have before. We didn't live back then, right?
Right.
So you're able to kind of get a better understanding from kind of like a bird's eye view. So that's super cool.
It's a cool way to put color around history.
Yes.
Right? Because like in high school, I did not like history at all, but now I love it. I can't get enough of it. I'm always obsessed with finding the history on this or finding the history of that or going down a rabbit hole. I mean, it's bad. Like I watch nonstop, like how this empire fell. Lots of YouTube videos on like World War II from different perspectives. Like just a lot of that stuff is just very interesting.
That's good, and that is. I think that's important for everyone, right? I think that's important for everyone because what ends up happening with that is once you open that can of worms and that opens your mind up and it sparks your interest, and then going down that rabbit hole, you just learn more and more and more and more and more. You know what I mean? And that broadens your horizons again. That exposure, it just helps you to even sharpen even your perspective on things that you, and also you looking at it from different points of view.
That's important.
That gives you okay, well, all right, this makes sense, and you can start to kind of put the puzzle together. So
and it gives you a holistic view because it's very easy for us to kind of be wrapped in our own perspective of things and see things from our own point of view. If we kind of take a step back, most of us all want the same thing.
Sure.
Our approach to get there is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But if you kind of open your mind and kind of listen to what the other person is saying without bias,
yes,
like even if they say something that like triggers you at first,
yeah,
hear the person out for a second, and it might give you some perspective on like why they think the way that they think.
yes.
Whether you agree or disagree, but it at least gives you a more holistic view, and it gets you closer to the truth.
I love that. I love that. I totally agree. I totally agree. And what I'm hearing is, be curious.
Yes.
Stay curious. Stay curious. That's awesome. That is, and you, and speaking of awesome, you just successfully graduated from It's Random. You did amazing. Please give her a hand. Please.
I was so nervous.
You did excellent. You
Those
knocked it
were
out
some
the park.
great questions.
Well, thank you so much.
Some thought-provoking
Listen,
questions.
that's what we do here with Kre8tive Konversations.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
So this is what I want to expound on a little bit, because I'm so glad that we went this historic route.
Yes.
Because what I love about your approach to fashion is that you're a student of it.
Yes.
So it makes sense that you being a history buff, you also digging into the history of fashion and how things came about and why they came about. You had a series on TikTok I thought was amazing, where you were highlighting certain designers and talking about the history of that particular designer.
Yes.
So tell me, when your curiosity for fashion, and not just clothing, so to speak, but when did your curiosity for this whole industry begin?
Well, not to have a full circle, well, not full circle yet, but not to be repetitive, I would say. It definitely started with that show, or I could take it even further back. I just remembered I used to be fascinated with people getting dressed, right? My grandmother used to get dressed, and she was, she really was into her clothes and her makeup and all that jazz. And I loved kind of like watching her get ready for work and stuff like that. And I couldn't wait till she came home and like help her take off her boots and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think I just, from an early age, just enjoyed watching people get dressed. Also, my mother's brother, he used to, like, back in the 80s when you used to have your jeans like pressed, and I remember I used to be so fascinated in watching him iron his jeans and put the creases in. Like, I just have like these core memories of like clothes.
Yeah.
I can't explain it, like these moments with clothes. So I think I always knew, but it cultivated as I started getting older. I discovered Fashion File. I was introduced to a man by the name of Andre Leon Talley very early.
Okay.
During that show, and I can't remember which one. One of the two shows, one of them was like just straight runway. It would just be like recapping of like runway shows. But another one was more like interview style, kind of like docuseries style with a new guest every week. And I remember specifically that one episode that stood out was Andre Leon Talley. And in fashion, especially from watching like the runways, you don't see a lot of faces of color, unfortunately, especially back then. At this point, it was like the early 90s. I mean, other than like, you had your Naomi and your few, but again, that was still far and few in between. Like, if you take the sum of the whole, it was still majority, Caucasian models or of other cultures. So I saw this like tall, brown man that, and he spoke with such eloquence, and, I wasn't exposed to a lot of that, so he was just so intriguing. And it was also interesting because they were doing sort of like this runway class, and the model in the show was Miss J from
Top Model.
America's Not Top Model.
Yeah.
But before I knew who any of these people were, this was like early, 90s. I didn't have any ideas. It was before Top Model, but yes. So he went on. So it was like, as I kept seeing these images as I'm growing up, it's like everything is sort of like culminating to this big thing. But when I was in junior high, I had a home and career skills teacher. And I went to Mechanical Hills up in North Tarrytown, and again, majority white. I think there was probably like 2 or 3 other black kids in my middle school, and so I just didn't connect with a lot of people, and I have that side of me. I come off very extroverted, but I'm actually very introverted at heart too. Like it's this weird balance.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I found sanctuary in that classroom, and I would go and I would sit with Miss Callahan every lunch period. I would bring my lunch there, and I would just talk with this grown lady, and you know, we would just talk about different things. What do you want to do when you grow up, and this and that. And I was like, I don't know. I went through so many iterations of what I wanted to do and be, and she was like, well, you really like fashion, and you're really good at math. She was like, you should be a buyer. And I was like, what the heck is a buyer? And she was like, oh, they buy clothes for department stores, and it's a really cool job, and there's this school called FIT that you should look into. It would be really great for you.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I think at that moment, like, I kind of made a decision at 12 that that's what I was gonna do.
Okay. So quickly, because it stood out to me. You're good in fashion. You're good at math. So why a buyer? What's that relationship?
Because what I found out later, which I didn't really understand then. I mean, I understood the fundamentals. As a buyer, you have a fiscal responsibility. Basically, you have a checkbook. You have a budget. You have, let's say, $60 million a year that you have to generate in sales, right?
Okay.
So in order to make that sales, you need a certain amount of inventory to make that sales. So now you have this number of, you have what's called receipt dollars. So they basically tell you, this is how much money you have to spend. Now you have to go and buy to fill this assortment so that we can reach this sales goal.
Gotcha.
So it's very math heavy. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. Maybe we do nowadays. But it's very financial heavy. Like, it's important. The numbers is first and foremost. But you also have to have a sense of fashion and a point of view, because you have to be able to understand emerging trends. You know, you can't, and no shade to some of the buyers out there, because there are a lot of buyers who have last year-itis that just keep buying the same things every year, and then your business tumbles, because you have to kind of find a balance of like, okay, what's my core thing that I know that I can sell in and out, that my customer just knows from me and they love it?
Yeah.
You know, where can I kind of take it up a notch and say, okay, had this big program last year, that's a little less important. What's the evolution of that?
Yeah.
You know, so I can make the investment in that. And then where's that peak of the pyramid of that like newness, that piece that you want to take a chance on, that maybe you're going to be the first one out with it, right? So it's really having that kind of balance of all of it. So you have to have the financial acumen to be able to crunch those numbers. You're in meetings and you need to be able to say, 100%. You know, I have X amount of sell-through percent. I need to order back into this inventory because I'm turning fast.
Yeah.
These are all retail terms, but you got to be able to do that stuff on the fly. You can't wait. Every day is a sales day. So you have to be able to react to business.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're not going to be successful as a buyer. So it is
crazy.
a weird bridge between like art and science.
Yeah.
If you will.
Oh man. That's a perfect way to put it. That's a perfect way to put it. Wow. Okay. So 12, you're sitting with your teacher. She mentions, hey, you're good at math. You're good at, you have a natural knack for fashion. She mentions FIT. Mm-hmm. So now, did you hear about FIT?
Never.
Never heard of FIT.
Never
okay.
heard of FIT.
So now you get this information. You're 12. How does that start to influence your? I'm gonna say. How does that begin to influence now your journey towards the fashion world? So
it wasn't as figured out at that point. There was, and you know, there's a young man by the name of Sekou.
Shout out to Sekou. Yep.
When I was in high school, he came to speak. I don't even remember what the occasion was. And we had just a prior conversation from being in the community, and he used to always ask kids, like, where do you want to go to college? Where do you want to go to college? So from when I was very young, he would always say, what college are you going to? And over the years, that would like change, right?
Yeah.
Based on the information that I received.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, 1 year it could be, I'm going to go to Howard.
Yeah.
1 year it could be, I'm going to go to Hofstra or whatever it was, you know, because of the influences that we have around. But over the years, that answer sort of changed. So it wasn't necessarily like lightning right in that moment, but it sort of was, the seed was planted.
Got you.
The seed was planted. So as I kind of went through high school and, you know, you know, your teachers and your family and your parents and everybody's like, oh, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And you start to kind of figure that thing out. And there was a program, I was a junior, and there was a program at the Laboratory Institute of Merchandising in the city. It was for high school students. And it was just like a great opportunity. I think it was like a college fair or something they had at Woodlands. I don't remember and how I even learned about the program, but I signed up for it and I used to go there and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And they kind of give you an introduction to all of it. So at that point I was like, okay, I know this solidified it. I definitely want to be a buyer. I definitely want to pursue this, but still it wasn't like solid that I wanted to go to FIT because I still wanted the HBCU experience.
Okay.
And Howard had a fashion program. So I was really kind of looking at Howard too.
Yeah.
But then when it was time for me to go to school, some things happened and I decided to stay in New York, which was a perfect situation anyway because that was the better choice for me anyway. To stay right here in New York and go to Fashion Institute of Technology because it's the best fashion school in the world. So, you know.
You make it to, so you decide, see this planet.
Yes.
Fast forward 6 years. You decide, you apply for FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology, right here in New York.
Yes.
And you make it.
I did.
You get in.
I
Now,
made it.
first and foremost, that's a big deal. That's a big deal in and of itself because we're talking about upper echelons as far as the fashion industry is concerned. Anybody who wants to do anything in fashion, that is particularly even at that time, that's where you're gonna go. So you get in. First of all, when you applied, did you feel as if you were a shoo-in? Were you confident that you was gonna get in? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't remember like ever thinking I wouldn't.
Okay.
I don't know if I would say confidence because it wasn't like, it was just a thing that like I didn't even think about it.
Got you.
I wasn't.
Got you. Now you had to put together a portfolio to present to them?
So to go into the buying program, you have to do a portfolio to go into the design program.
Got it. Okay.
I went into the buying program, but it is the most competitive program. Like buying and design are the two most competitive programs at FIT.
So were you excited when you got the acceptance?
Yes. I was excited. Yes.
Now, you're excited.
It's a loaded question. There was a lot of life happening at that time, but yes, I was excited.
It was okay. All right. So you get there. You walk on the campus. You go to your first class, and you're sitting. How many students in your class?
In my major, probably one of the largest majors in FIT, and it's interesting because like once you get in there they start to try to like push you into other concentrations just because there's not that many buying jobs. We gotta start sort of moving these people out. But yeah, it was huge and it was intimidating. It was different, you know, coming from, you know, my high school where my high school was, Woodlands is pretty diverse. But going into that situation where it was like people from all over the world, really. I was going to say all over the country, but like from all over the world. So that was just a new, unique experience. So it was just like stimulating. Like it was just so much stimulation like everywhere. Like, oh my God. Like, you know, and especially because you think fashion is like this one thing. You have this idea of like what fashion is. And then you get to a place like FIT and realize that like fashion means so many different things to so many people. There's not this monolithic way to look at fashion. So you learn that really early going to FIT.
Was that so it was stimulating when you got into the program and you started to kind of unpack all of the elements of it, really, because you kind of came in on the front end as, you know, a novice, right? You didn't really know what it really entailed.
Yeah.
So as you're pursuing your studies and the layers of what it means to be a buyer and the process of being a buyer, as you're learning this, is it giving you anxiety?
It scared me.
Okay. All right.
I became deathly afraid, and as a matter
Really?
of fact, I changed my major.
Wow.
Because I was like, I don't want to be a buyer anymore because it's so like analytic and intensive, and like those classes were not easy.
Yeah.
Those were really, really hard classes, and I didn't enjoy it.
Got you.
At all. I didn't do well. I mean, also factor in the fact that at this point I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I gotta mention that. Yeah.
we kind of glazed over that.
Yeah.
But,
I was gonna come back to it. I was gonna come back to it.
So I didn't want to do it.
Mm.
I didn't want to do it. But not that I didn't want to do anything. I just felt like, okay, this is not my path. I really enjoyed fashion correspondence. So at the time, I had a lot of friends who were in the music business.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, a lot of my friends were a lot older than me. I used to hang out with people that were like 2 and 3 years older than me. And I had a friend who worked for Sony, and not going to put anybody on blast, but in high school, I was cutting up at industry parties and you know, so I kind of got a taste for that like lifestyle, and I was like, oh, I want to do like this part of the fashion. Like I don't want to be like a buyer.
Right,
I want to be the exciting part. So fast forward when I get to college and I'm doing the buying part of it, I'm seeing my friends and how much fun it is going to the parties and this and that. So I'm like, okay, I want to be a fashion correspondent. I want to be like a Juliana DePandy, you know, like, and review fashion and, you know, that aspect of it. Because I also realized at some point, I don't remember, that I really liked performing and being on stage and being in front of the camera. And, you know, and I felt like as a buyer, I couldn't really do that.
Got you. Okay. So, all right. So you switched the major up to fashion correspondent.
Well, there wasn't a major for it. It was advertising, marketing, communications, but basically like communications.
Got it.
And I geared my classes towards like production and that kind of stuff. Got
you. So now you're in kind of more so the lane that is more interesting to you.
More exciting, more sexy, more like
all of that.
Yeah.
All of that.
I don't want to be sitting there doing math and
trying to figure out the working budgets.
I don't want to do that.
So now you mention it, you're a mom, right? And Isis is how old at this point?
Well,
2,
she
3?
was born at FIT, not physically, but I was pregnant my freshman year, and I remember that being such a like thing because I made a connection with a couple of like professors there, and I remember one, Professor Lampley. Shout out to Professor Lampley. He seen me because by the time, you know, I was skinny, so I wasn't even really showing. But by the time we got to the end of the first semester, I got this belly, and they were just like, "Girl." But Professor Lampley, I'll never forget, in the hallways, he was like, "You better come back. I better see you back here." But I had no intentions. I didn't know what it was gonna be like to be a mom. Like in my mind, like I have this built-in like weird confidence level of like I can do anything. I never didn't think I couldn't
100%,
do it.
100%, yeah.
So it's like, of course I'll be back. Like this ain't nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No, literally, I know it sounds crazy, but literally that was my perspective on it.
Yeah. Wow. So that throws a curveball at you.
Yes.
Right? So how did that affect your now ability to be a student, go back to school? How did that affect all of those things?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to have an amazing family.
Yes.
So it definitely took a village.
Yeah.
Had a great relationship with my ex. His family was very supportive. So it really just took a village. Like we just all pulled and pulled it together and made it happen.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
Made it happen. It was to the point where I was probably like my junior, senior year. My daughter would stay with her father's parents like 4 days out of the week while I went to school. So they had her 4 days, I had her 3 days. Like we made it happen. Because it was never in my mind. Never in my mind was I like, oh, I have to stop now. Right?
Yeah.
It just made me go harder,
That's
if you will.
That's it. Yep. And we had to make adjustments. But you stayed the course.
Yep.
You stayed the course.
Didn't waver.
And didn't waver. And you finished.
Not one minute.
And you were able to finish, and never did it cross your mind that you would not be able to finish.
Nope.
And you did it.
never crossed my mind.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It got hard. I'm not trying to say that it was easy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of challenges and Rubik's cubes and you know, things that had to figure out. There was some curveballs. There was some, had to move over to the side, move back, jump forward, jump through some hoops, and it wasn't easy, but like not doing it was never
an option.
It was never an option.
So you finished FIT.
Ooh.
You get it done. You got it in there. You got it done. So now you graduate with what was the degree?
Bachelor's.
Bachelor's degree in
advertising,
marketing
communications.
Dope. Okay. So you come out of that.
AMC. It was the AMC.
AMC. So now what is the first job that you land?
So funny you should say. So when I was like in my senior year, when they start preparing you for the workplace or whatever, one of the classes we took a trip to like the internship office. Well, like it's like an internship but job office. Like you can literally go walk down the hallway and there'll be jobs posted and internships posted by, role, buying, design, whatever, right? It's a whole long hallway with like jobs posted. So it was a part of one of the classes. They gave us a tour of the office, and they're doing a presentation, and the woman that was kind of doing the presentation literally pulled me to the side and was like, I have the perfect opportunity for you, because I guess just from walking around and me being me or whatever, she's like, this person is it's an event planning company, but they do fashion shows, and they're looking for some interns, and I think you'd be the perfect, they hadn't even posted this.
Wow.
Anything. They didn't tell the group. Yeah. She literally pulled me to the side and was like, here's this opportunity. And what the opportunity was Glow Media. Shout out to Cheryl Gentry, Glow Media. And I went, I met with her, and we like hit it off so well. Mm-hmm. And she was an event planning company, like I said, but she used to do a lot of the promotional fashion shows back then. Okay. And this particular show was for Hot 97 Full Frontal Fashion fashion show at the Hammerstein Ballroom. So she was like, yeah, you're perfect. And so I started working with her on that project, and it was amazing. And mind you, I'm still in school at this point. Yeah. So I would, like, after class, I would come and go over to the office and work, and we put on that show, and it was like the most amazing thing, getting to work with like, June Ambrose, Atiba Newsome, just really, really amazing people and their teams, and working with a lot of models. Now this was around the time when like Top Model was popping, so it was like a lot of the models from Top Model was there, so that was like exciting for me. And it was also, if you remember, the Hot 97 Full Frontal Fashion, it was fashion to music, fashion to music, mm-hmm. fashion to music. Mm-hmm. So it was like really cool. Like I met Remy Ma, she came in the office one day, and I'll never forget, because whatever I was wearing, I know what I was wearing, but I'm not gonna go into it. But she was like, the outfit is cute, the outfit's cute. So I'm like reveling. I'm like, I'm in here, I'm around the people, and this is fire. And this is what I want to do all the time. And this is dope. And I was working with her, so the whole thing I was kind of like doing coordination. Mm-hmm. I was literally the one like email in June, like with like setting up fittings for the models to be able to come and fit the clothes. I was doing the lineup,
Oh,
like
wow.
what looks should go first, second, and third. Like
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
For free. Remember, this is
Yeah.
the internship.
Yeah.
But I loved it so much. It was so exciting. I was in that office all the time as much as I could. Like
Yeah.
it was the best thing
Ever.
You
Wow.
hear me? Like
Yeah.
the best thing ever. And then when the night of the show came, the stylist at the time was like, asked the person who I was working for, Cheryl, she was like, can she be with me during the show? And she was like, yeah, it's fine. So then I got to assist the stylist, and that was so cool. And in the midst of everything going on with the show, I remember at one point she was like, because it was getting so chaotic and we were trying to put the looks on everybody, and she was like, you could just accessorize everybody. I was like, me? I do accessories?
Yeah, that's dope.
So it was so exciting. So then that was one of those points in my life where like my career changed. I was like, oh, okay, this is dope. I want to be a stylist.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And then, I mean, I'll sum this up because I won't get into it. So I did that a few times. I worked with Cheryl for a few events. And the next go around when we did it again, I was working with the stylist. And then I started to really kind of learn the ins and outs of that and like how challenging that role is. And I was like, I don't want to be I don't want to be a stylist.
No, be a stylist.
I was like, I want to direct. I want to creative direct.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just painting a picture that as I started to have these different experiences, I started wanting to do different things. So to go back to your question about my first job, well, technically the second one, that first show I did it for free as an intern, but then the second one, her model wrangler, like didn't show up or something. She's like, Tara, you promoted, you're not my model wrangler, and I got paid $500. So that was like my first like paid.
What's like literally the wrangle?
Yeah, you have to be like mic'd up and you stand in the front of the stage and you gotta wait for production, whoever's like behind looking at the screen to be like go, and then I'll be like go and tell the next model to go. So I'm just sitting there mic'd up saying go.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
And I got paid $500 for that.
Dope.
But fast forward, I was having a good old time, and then the financial crisis 2007 hit, and everything got shut down. So there was no more like freelance money. People wasn't cutting checks and stuff no more. I couldn't get those shows anymore. And that was also around the time, like even music industry, like all the not little labels, I don't mean to say little, but like, you know how everybody had their own record label and all of that.
Yeah.
The financial crisis really affected that, and that also affected a lot of those fashion brands. So like the Baby Fats and the Rockaware and even Sean John, like all those labels kind of got affected.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the sweet spot of the stuff that I was kind of working on.
Okay.
So
Got you.
I had to get a real job, and the irony is my first job, like my first real corporate job, was a buying job.
Wow. Look at that. Full circle indeed. Full circle indeed.
Full circle.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
crazy.
So
Crazy.
You find so now you were in essence doing what you liked to do.
Yeah. I got that off for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Doing the freelance, doing, exciting.
Doing living the life. In the lifestyle, in the environments that you like to exist in.
Yeah.
So now you take a shift, a major shift.
Yep.
Right? From that lifestyle, now you're working as a buyer. So now
Merchandise assistant. Which is like entry level in the buying track.
Okay. So how did you land that? And what was that like now?
Because I'm brilliant. No.
Yes, you are.
There was, I don't know, I just applied. I mean, I went to FIT. That was helpful.
Yeah.
So I went to fashion school. My first job was as a clerical. Sorry, I didn't even get to merchandise assistant yet. I was a clerical at Loman's.
Okay.
The off-price retailer.
Yeah.
So I was a clerical. I worked part-time, which worked because remember I'm a mom.
Yeah.
So it was good because I worked like 4-hour shifts. I didn't do like full 8-hour shifts in the beginning. And most of it was just like, pulling reports Monday morning. That's when they used to get the reports in the big, like green and white from on the big printer, and you would have
like
to
the
take
jury,
the stack of
like lime.
yeah. You would have to take the stack of reports.
What?
And then I would have to like highlight anything with low inventory, and just real, that kind of stuff. So that was kind of like my first foray, but it was exciting because Loman's is pretty cool. Like I always say, that's how I got my foundation in buying, because not to get all like merchandising methodical, but the whole idea with when you work for a major retailer, like you already have relationships, right? When you are a Macy's, you have a relationship with Ralph Lauren, so you're pretty much, your appointment is etched in stone. You can go in there whenever you want, buy whatever you want, whenever you want it, right?
Yeah.
But when you're an off-price retailer, it's all about like finding opportunities, constantly reaching out to your contacts. Do you have anything left over? So it's not like, for a major retailer, I know that this hoodie program with whatever designer did really good, so I'm just going to go back to them next year and continue to do that business.
Yeah.
When it's off-price, it's what's available. So you're constantly having to kind of like hit the pavement and go to these vendors and be like, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? So it was almost like, to me, I felt like that's what gave me like a really good foundation.
Yeah.
Because I was always like on top of like my business, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't go into it in a cushy situation. So,
Got you. Got you.
That was a cool thing. And then from there, I wanted a more full-time role, and I applied. Isis is getting a little bit older, so now I can like work more and stuff. And I was looking for a more full-time role, and then that's when I got the job as a merchandise assistant at Saks.
Okay.
So that was fun.
Now, did this position take you around the world?
Not yet.
Take you international?
Nope.
Okay.
Not yet. This is still in the buying office.
Okay.
The area I was in private brand. So basically what private brand is, it's when that retailer puts their own label on the clothes, so they source directly with manufacturers as opposed to a vendor, right? Like Ralph Lauren is a brand. I can go to Ralph Lauren and buy off of their line, or private brand is when I'm actually producing it for me. I'm going straight to a manufacturer, putting my own label on it.
Got you.
So I worked, the area I worked was for the Saks Fifth Avenue label, and it wasn't a lot of stuff. Like it wasn't really high fashion. It would be like core programs, like the core cashmere program that they did every year in the winter, and then like their core linen program that they did every summer.
Okay.
So I started to work with international players, if you will, because we used an agent that would source stuff for us. So I started communications and stuff like that overseas, but that wasn't the role that I was traveling.
Got you.
In.
Yeah.
But that gave me the foray to private brand, because then I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like I'm really interested in the construction of the garment. Yeah. Right. So from there, I started researching roles, and I literally went. I never forget. I found a job description for Macy's merchandising group for a product manager, and I took it to my HR at Saks, and I was like, "This is the kind of role that I'm like looking for, or whatever."
Yeah.
But our private brand business just wasn't that big.
Okay.
To really have that role per se.
Okay.
And then fast forward, I ended up moving over to MMG, doing product management and for kids.
And you did that for a while?
Yes.
You did that for a while?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's where I started traveling.
That's when you start traveling all over the world. See, if we could just park here for just a second, because if you're not catching this, you do this. Yeah. And you've been doing this for a very long time. And not only have you been doing it for a long time, but you have expertise in different areas of this fashion thing. And what was interesting about that is the fact that when you think, me personally, when you think about fashion, you think as a monolith. You don't think of all of the different elements to it and all the different tentacles to it and different arms to fashion. So as I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, this is fascinating, because I didn't know that there was all of this behind the curtain, right? So now you're now into, well, you have this experience. Now you're doing merchandising for kids.
Well, product development.
Product development. So product development in this position, this takes you global.
Yes.
So now you're traveling the world. And what are you doing when you're traveling the world?
So as a product developer, it's a unique position because you do have a fiscal responsibility, right? You do have a receipt number that you have to hit. There is a buyer that role is a little bit more tied. So like I'm an in-between the design and the creative people and the buyer. As a product developer, you work very hands-on with the design team. So that's the team that's actually sketching and designing the goods. Technical design, which is two different roles. A lot of people don't realize this.
Okay.
A technical designer is the one who is the expert on specs, on specifications of the garments, the measurement piece of it.
Snap.
So that's a very technical, analytical job. The designer designs it.
Yeah.
This is how I want it to look. Gives that over to the technical designer. They start figuring out how everything should measure, right? And then it comes to me as the product developer, and now it's my job to go and find a manufacturer, somebody to make it.
That can meet the design and the specification.
Exactly.
Wow.
Look at you. Exactly, because that's the important piece, because you're negotiating with a lot of different suppliers, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And you work with different suppliers all around. So you might source something with 3 different suppliers. This is where like countries and things come to play. Like there's certain areas of the world that's known for better quality. There's certain areas of the world that are known for better pricing. Certain areas of the world has better, depends on what material. So like cotton, what we would do out of Egypt, just would have the best cotton at the best price. Sweaters we would do, and Turkey actually is a huge place for like sweaters, or like Korea was a good place for sweaters. Then you would have Hong Kong, which is kind of a balance of both. Like they really have really good quality, but the prices were a little bit higher. So it's like you got to play that game. Woven goods are always good coming out of the region of India. So you're kind of balancing all these things to kind of determine where you want to have your goods manufactured.
Interesting.
So yeah.
So what were some of the countries that you went to?
That I went to. I've been to Egypt. I've been to New Delhi. I've been to Hong Kong. I've been to Singapore, and I've been to Korea.
Huh. International.
Yeah.
Stamped passport
Oh,
and all.
passport's crazy.
So you...
I had to update it. When I had to update my passport, I was like, no.
No more stamps.
Oh, my stamps.
So when you're here, you're on business, obviously. So what are you doing? You go into factories, you testing fabrics, what are you doing?
Let me set the scene.
Okay, let's do it.
You get on a flight at Newark International.
Let's start there.
All business class flight.
Okay.
You fly 18 hours to Singapore. Right? Your flight is Sunday night. You get on a plane on Sunday night, flying 18 hours. When you get to Singapore, it's early Monday morning.
Crazy, man.
You go to your hotel, you take a bird bath, you get dressed, and you go to the office.
Wow. Straight like that.
Straight like that. Straight like that. And you go to the office first, because we had offices in those countries. We had a Macy's office in those countries.
Yeah.
So you go there, you work with your merchandisers, and then your merchandisers, sometimes you would have appointments with vendors there, because they'll do like a round robin where they have vendors come to you.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you will go to the vendor showroom.
Got it.
Because maybe they want to show you new development, a new technology they're working on, a new program, a new technique. They want to show you that, new fabrics that they're sourcing. So it's a combination of both. Some of the meetings are in the office, and then some of the meetings are actually at the vendor's
What did you
place.
prefer?
At the vendors. For sure. I mean, it's nice because when you're in the office, you get that kind of round robin experience.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing there is I'm negotiating. I'm negotiating prices is the bottom line of what I'm doing. I'm saying, give me 5 cents off. Like, technique, da-da-da-da, fine. Don't make it 2 ruffles instead of 3 ruffles. Give me a better price, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's also a hard thing because the designers, they want it produced exactly how they design it, but sometimes as the person who's fiscally responsible, you might have to make some changes and be like, oh, the designer wants this really fancy button, but like I can't afford it. So I have to push back to the designer like we can't do that. Here's this other button that's great and this fits into our price point. So it's a lot of like that kind of negotiating, or the designer might be like, no, I feel really strongly that's what makes the whole design. I have to have that. So now I'm going back to the vendor being like, listen, my designer has to have that. Like, help me. Help me get to this price.
Wow.
So it's just a lot of negotiating. But I love going to showroom. One of my favorite experiences ever was in India. Well, first, it was my favorite country to go to was India.
Okay. Oh, that's dope.
By far.
Yeah. Okay.
The culture, the clothes, the jewelry, the food.
Everything.
Hands down favorite place.
Wow.
That I've traveled.
Okay.
It's also, I mean, there's a, duality. I have a yin yang tattoo because for me, it's always duality.
Yeah.
It's also, they have one of the biggest caste systems in the world, and that is very evident. So that is kind of like, ooh. Some parts of it I don't like, but then some parts of it is so amazing.
You love it, yeah.
But we were in the vendor's showroom, and it was like huge, and we're sitting there, and they had like chefs come in and like cook. So we're eating curry in New Delhi, India. It's like 110 degrees outside.
Are you serious?
And I'm eating the best curry I've ever had in my life.
They brought in chefs?
Best curry I ever had in my life.
That's amazing.
Brought in chefs, whatever you want. You want. They had, I wanted to get henna.
Yes,
they brought somebody in to do henna.
Really?
While we're having the appointment.
The best curry that is...
Eating the best curry, negotiating,
getting
henna.
That's dope.
One of the best experiences.
That's dope.
Ever professionally.
Yeah, that's dope. That's
For sure, hands down.
Wow. Okay. So what's interesting is because we talked about exposure earlier. And so literally what it is that you decided that you were going to do and you went all in with it, right? Even the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of it all, you stuck it through. And now this thing the seed that was planted, the thing that you figured out that you had a passion for and love. Now this very same thing is taking you all over the world, stamping up your passport and allowing you to be exposed to different cultures and things along those lines. And what is blowing my mind is the fact that you're not just learning how to do business in the States, but now you're learning how to do international business and learning how to communicate and operate in different cultures as well, right? So that piece. So tell me about that. Like, how did that change your perspective?
I always tell people, if you can travel, you should definitely travel internationally because you understand life a little bit better, especially as Americans. And I could be biased, but I feel like we have a very interesting perspective on how we look at life. As America, we've been a superpower for a long time, and we kind of have that mindset. But when you kind of get out of the country and start to experience like some other countries with their governments are different, culturally they're different, their practices are different, their laws are different.
Yep.
It just kind of, again, gives you a more holistic view of things. And I always say this funny thing when people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, I'm a citizen of the world.
I love
right?
that.
Because
that's fire. I like that.
I don't think of myself as just like where I'm planted right now. Like, the world is huge,
100%.
and I'm also a part of that global community as well. Even though this is where my feet are planted right now, I am a part of this global thing.
Yes, that I like that. I like
universally, but that's a conversation for another
time.
We're not gonna go that deep.
And I love that though, because what just kind of popped into my mind is that, I mean, how befitting is it that you're in the fashion industry, which is literally an international, global language,
yes.
right? Yes. I mean, across the globe.
Yes.
So that also is super. I think is super dope. And so now your merchandising, your product development for kids clothing. Mm-hmm. You're traveling the world. You're getting this experience. What are you now as far as your next move? What are you thinking about? What is your next move?
As exciting as it is, I mean, and I will just impart for 1 second. Yes, I'm doing kids clothes, but the thing about doing kids clothes is it gives me the opportunity to work on every category. So I'm doing outerwear, I'm doing swim, I'm doing sweaters, I'm doing denim, so yes, it's kids clothes, but also there's certain specifications that regardless if it was kids or adult is important in terms of construction, knit size, all that stuff, like denim techniques, washing, embellishments on t-shirts. Like I'm learning about like all different categories of the business, which is also a blessing.
Yeah.
Because I could have easily been in women's knits. There's a lot of people that work women's knits, or there's a lot of people that work wovens, or people that are like sweater specialists. The fact that I got the opportunity to pretty much work on every category that exists. Except for I didn't do like shoes. I never worked in like shoes or handbags. Well, no, that's a lie. When I was at Loman's, I had small leather goods. So I pretty much have experience in every
aspect of the dog.
Of the business.
Yeah,
it's a lot. I missed Mother's Day 3 years in a row.
Wow,
it's a lot. The travel is a lot. Like I remember the first time I was leaving my daughter when my first trip going to Singapore. I was leaving ISIS. And we were driving in the morning because I was going to drop her off to Candida, and we were in the car, and this Monica song came on. It's You're Everything to Me. I forget the name of the title of the song, but the song came on, and it's like dark because it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And I just started bawling, crying because I didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
So it's like that part of it is hard too, like leaving your family, because these trips would be long trips.
Yeah.
And sometimes you missed really, key moments. I used to have to travel every May because that's when sweater market was. So I had to do it 3 years in a row. So it just, as much fun as it was, I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it was another one of those times where business was starting to change a little bit, and business was tough. And they were doing layoffs, and they actually told us early, like way in advance, that our brand was going to be discontinued.
Yeah. So
they were trying to like get us roles in like different places. Like I had 3 other jobs that I could have taken, but I didn't want them. I was just tired. I've been going for so long, and being a mom and going, and the fashion industry, as you can imagine, is tough. It's late nights. We got to the point where I was at work till 8 o'clock every night, taking car service home. Like it was just a lot on me. Yeah. Exciting, loved what I did, but just the work-life balance piece just wasn't there. Okay. So I didn't take any of those jobs. I took the check, and I didn't work for a little bit. And that was interesting, but it was short. It was very short-lived. I knew that I would get a job quickly, but I literally got a call from somebody that I used to work for at Macy's, who was over at Aeropostale. Okay. And he was like, "Oh, we're launching Aero Kids. Come on over." Yeah. So I was like, okay. Like I couldn't even enjoy my layoff. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I was going to Target every day, dropping ice going to school, going to Target, like living this, housewife life. Because I had 6 months severance package because we knew that the brand was being discontinued. It was right around like March, so I had just bonus. Yeah. And that's when we used to bonus. We used to bonus like 13%. Ooh. 13% bonus, and it was tax time. I wasn't worried about nobody's job.
Yeah, he was good.
I was good, but surely, like I couldn't even turn around good in the bed before you got the call.
Oh my goodness. So I'm glad that you brought that part up, because you often just see, as a lot of things, you also often see the glitz and the glam
Don't
of
get
it.
me started.
But you very rarely see the behind the scenes that goes into it, that makes it look effortless.
Mm-hmm.
But all the effort and all of the hours and all of those things that actually all the sacrifices that had to be made in order for what we ultimately see, what the end result is, for it to look the way that it looks.
Yeah, you know, people go to the store and you see all the clothes. It's like, but you don't think about like all the work and how many people are working behind the scenes across the globe to make that happen.
Across the globe.
You know, we see a fashion show and we're just like, you know, we're watching the runway and we're critiquing, oh, I like this, I like that, but like with no concept of like what it took to like put that together. That is heavy, heavy stuff. That's only scratching the surface of this thing called fashion. And you know, it's just interesting when people have fashion conversations, and I'm just always like, you have no idea.
Yes,
you have no idea
so
whatsoever.
I want to go here. So you have recently you've been able to kind of get back into the lifestyle that you had to leave to get into buying, right? Mm-hmm. So you have an opportunity to do the drip report.
Yes.
At Earn Your Leisure's Invest Fest.
Yes.
And for those who are not familiar with Earn Your Leisure, is one of the largest financial literacy platforms in the world, right? And they have an event called Invest Fest in Atlanta. This was the third year?
Yes.
This was the third year. And this last year, it was 20,000 plus people at this venue. And you have the opportunity to do what is called Drip Report, where you're interviewing some of the panelists, some of the folks that are there behind the scenes, and assess what it is that they have going on and talk to them about their outfits. How did that come about?
So Drip Report is really Rashad's baby.
Okay. Oh yes. Yep.
As we know, Rashad is very fashionable, fashion rebel, style icon, fashion icon. Yeah. That he is, and has always been. You know, we've known Rashad for a really long time. Mm-hmm. He's always been, you know, a pretty stylish guy, and he does these drip reports on his Instagram. Yeah. And it just so happened, what is this, 2023? So I guess around 2020, I full circle moment. You know, when the pandemic and everything was kind of happening, and we were just home. I started doing YouTube videos on, as you were kind of mentioning before, kind of like the history of fashion. I'm a history buff. Yeah. So I like how the houses got started. I like hearing, you know, Coco Chanel's story. And I know there's controversy. People always remind me of the controversy around Coco Chanel. Yeah. I know. Again, duality, right? Yeah. But I love hearing the historic stories of like some of these design houses, because a lot of these houses have been around for years. Balenciaga, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, like just understanding the starts of some of these businesses are really interesting and intriguing, and how like politics has a play in a lot of these things. And so I like that part of it. Yeah. You know, it's not just about the, you know, the quilted bag. Like I like the stories of the people behind it. I'm like a story person. Yeah. Yeah. So I started doing these YouTube videos truly because that's the type of content that I like. Yeah. Like when I'm on YouTube, I love the history of things. Useful charts. There's this YouTube channel that I found. It's called Useful Charts, but it tells like the family trees of like monarchs and stuff like that. Like I love that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I was like, there's no like fashion content out there kind of like that. So I started doing the YouTube videos, and shout out to our father who helped build that, sent me a camera and some other equipment, and we worked it out. We figured it out. I didn't know what I was doing, pressing point and putting out this content, but a lot of people really enjoyed it. Yeah. So I started putting clips on Instagram and stuff, and I'm friends with Rashad's sister Tahira, and she was like, Rashad is always doing the drip report. Like he should bring somebody else in to do it because he's so busy and doing all these other things, and that would be so cool. So she had pitched it to him. And he was like, yeah, I like that idea. So, and then, you know, the rest is history. So the first, I didn't do it for the first Invest Fest. I just went as a as a patron or whatever to the first Invest Fest, but then the second one I came on in the capacity doing the drip report.
I love that.
And a full circle moment, right? Because when I was at FIT, I wanted to be a fashion correspondent.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's weird that all these seeds kind of like are all planted for the ultimate thing that happens, and it's not over. It's continuing.
The big picture, absolutely the big picture. And what I don't want us to overlook is the fact that you had to do all of these other things in order to get the exposure, in order to get the expertise, in order to bump your head, in order to get the bruises, all of those things, for you to now be able to create the content that you created with the knowledge and expertise that you had that ultimately caught the attention of someone who was doing something on a large scale that now put you back in the seat that you always wanted to be in the first place. Because even when you started, you weren't exactly doing what it is that you wanted to do.
Exactly.
Now, after all of this experience, that now you're doing exactly what it is that you want to do, and you do it phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you.
You do it phenomenal.
Thank you.
Here's what I want us to kind of land the plane with. One of the reasons, and I shared this with you, one of the reasons why I thought it was important for you to tell your story is because you have a lot of people that are doing this, but they're not really doing it, right? You have a lot of people who just maybe have an eye for what's stylish or what's popular, but they don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They don't know how that came about. They're just pretty much, because they have a camera, because they maybe have some lights and some equipment, they just figure that this is what they're going to talk about because it's something that can get them some attention.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure that people put respect on your name because you've been doing this.
Put some respect on my name.
Put some respect on your name because you are most certainly a treasure in this space because you're a wealth of information and you're a wealth of knowledge, and you've put in the work, but you've also had to take the grunt of all of the process and all the things that came along with the process, right? And so for you to have gone through all of that, and you continue to evolve and get better and still be the student of the game, speaks to, one, your resilience, but two, also that you deserve to be in this conversation.
Yeah.
You definitely deserve to be in this conversation.
I think I have a valid point of view.
Absolutely, positively you do. You absolutely have a valid point of view, and you can definitely be, you are a resource that needs to be tapped into as far as your knowledge is concerned.
Yeah.
Right? And clearly, in this time that we've been together, you've traveled the world. You went to the most prestigious school in the world for fashion. You know about fabrics, you know about specifications, you know about the design, you know it from concept to market.
Yes.
And everything in between.
Yes.
What is one piece of advice, and we're going to close on this, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who is interested in a youngster, who has the same passion, who has the same kind of vision, right, or similar? What is one piece of advice that you would give he or she as to what it is that they need to do in order to, what they need to do in order to be successful in this industry? Or two pieces of advice, because you're my sister, so you get.
I get two. I get two of everything.
You get two.
That is, I have a really hard time answering that question, just because I feel like I can't really give someone advice on how to be successful because it really depends on what success means to you, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be the piece of advice. Be clear on what success looks like for you.
That's good.
Because what success looks like for me might not be what it looks like for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back for a second. Actually, before the cameras were rolling, we were talking about like Fashion Week, and with all the experience and everything that I have never sat front row or any row in any of the official Fashion Weeks. I've gone to a ton of Fashion Week events and presentations and after parties and things like that, but there is an official. You hear about New York Fashion Week and Milan Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week. There's a council of like fashion designers and fashion executives that put out an official list of the official shows. So I've never sat in any one of the official shows. And I remember at one point I was at like an event, because I would be at all the parties and all the events and things. And I remember talking to this gentleman, and he was like, "Oh," it was during Fashion Week. He was like, "Oh, what shows did you go to?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I didn't go to any of the shows." And he kind of looks at me. He said, "Don't worry, one day you will." Right?
Okay.
And that was just so interesting to me, because for some people, that's their goal.
Yeah.
For some people, they want to sit front row at Michael Kors.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily my goal. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think be clear on what success looks like for you, and know that that is ever changing. Yeah. It's constantly changing. Quoting Olivia Butler, the only thing that's true is change. That's the only thing that's constant is change. So just being comfortable with the changes, not being resistant when the universe or God pushes you into different arenas, because even now, I mean, the journey is really just beginning in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm being pushed and challenged today is like, we could do a whole nother episode on that. So again, these constant full circle moments, and me realizing that after doing all of this, I do have the expertise. I want to make clothes. Yeah. What does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So venturing off into that and exploring that, and it's hard going into it with so much knowledge. And in some situations, it's almost better when you're green, because you don't know what to expect and you just stumble through it. But because I have so much experience, like, I know how this thing works, right? And, so it's like finally getting that opportunity to do that for my own. Yeah. It's scary and exciting and expensive. Yeah. But I'm really excited for it and looking forward to it. And telling more of my story.
And telling more of your story.
Because I think people can relate.
Absolutely, there's absolutely can. So. And this is just the first chapter of many.
Of this story.
Of this story. Of this story.
Of this series.
Of this series.
This is gonna be a series.
I like it. I like it. That's even better. That's even better. And you couldn't end it more. You could not have put the cherry on top any better than that. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation, because I most certainly did. You may have to watch this a few times, because I think the gems in this are going to kind of help you along your journey, right? Because that's, in essence, that's what it is, right? And as Tara said, the only thing that's constant is change. So the earlier you're able to embrace change, the earlier you allow yourself to be flexible enough to move in the direction that you've been led to.
I have a thing.
Go ahead.
So you actually told me something once too.
We
were having a conversation. I don't know what the conversation was about.
Yeah.
But you and I were talking. We get talking.
Yeah.
And you said something about going with the flow. Like, you have to move with the current. Yeah. You remember it? Do you remember that? You probably don't remember that.
No, I do. I do
actually. I do. Sometimes you have to go with the current and not resist the current. And that was something that was so poignant. And, I think if I think about a lot of things in life, I could be somewhere a little bit different if I didn't resist as much. But at the same time, it is still a part of my story, and it's leading to me to where I am. But like, that was so profound. And that was like such a fork in the road moment. Yeah. So thank you.
Oh man.
Little brother. Not the little one, the big one. Listen, big little brother. You definitely have inspired me in a lot of ways.
I received that. Well, go with the current.
Yes.
You gotta go with the current. Don't resist the current. Go with the flow. And Tara is the epitome and the example of when you do, even though you may resist at first, but when you surrender to that flow, where or what could come of it could be beyond your wildest imagination.
Exactly. So all those crazy dreams, those crazy ideas, those things that pop into your mind, that's not by accident.
Yeah, that's right.
Explore it.
Explore it. Stay curious, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Stay curious. Stay curious. I just want to thank y'all for tapping into another phenomenal episode of the Kre8tive Konversations at the Kre8tive Lounge, where we just highlight dope people. We have conversations with dope people who are doing dope things and just have dope thoughts, as you can see. So thank you so very much, sister.
Thank you.
I truly appreciate you.
This is very special.
Yes.
Very special.
Yes, it was most certainly special, and I can't wait for everybody to experience this. This has been another episode of Kre8tive Konversations at the Kre8tive Lounge with your host, Pop. Just want to truly thank you for tapping in. And listen, I'm going to check you on the next episode, but in the meantime, I love you to life and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to see you in a minute. Peace.